I want to follow up a lot on what Senator Tester was talking about. No big surprise there, Megan. But obviously continue to be very, very concerned about rural postal delivery. And just want to give you some statistics. And I want to thank you all for once again appearing. Run into several of my colleagues as I was rushing back here saying we're working on postal reform, and this has been an issue that so many people have spent so many hours on, and I think both Jim and Dave, you basically nailed it. There isn't any idea out there that we haven't vetted, that we haven't, figured out, that we've left behind. There's no magic bullet. We just have to do the work that a board of directors should do for an entity that runs very much like a business. And certainly, I think there's been a lot of effort on this committee, not successful. I mean, let's be honest. As I watched in my location here in D.C., the mail being delivered at Christmas time with U-Hauls. And we even saw it in North Dakota. We know that we've got some issues that we've got to confront as it relates to mail delivery. And I certainly share the sentiment that once we start telling someone we are not going to deliver the mail at the end of the mile, then we're not the United States Post Office. We aren't meeting our constitutional obligation. And so my focus a lot has been a lot on what this means for rural America. And so I want to kind of give you some statistics just so that you understand what Senator Tester is talking about in terms of the prominence and importance of mail delivery in rural America. The Inspector General of the United States Postal Service released a report in April of 2015 about the variance in originating first-class mail single-piece volume declines throughout the United States. From 1995 to 2013, the originating first-class mail volume in North Dakota only decreased by 37%. That's the lowest rate of volume decline of any state in the country. It's significantly lower than the 61% national average first-class mail volume decline for the same period. And I want to point out that other rural states such as South Dakota, Montana, and Vermont, if you want to know where you haven't seen this same rapid rate of decline, it's in rural states. It's in rural communities. So that just impresses upon people how important rural delivery is. And we recently, and I don't know, Megan, I'm sure your staff's briefed you about a situation that we have in Fargo. It's a subdivision. Senator. It's a subdivision in Fargo, basically, but it's rural delivery. And we've talked several times about this, about the contracting for rural postal carriers and the difficulty that we have when old deliverers basically are edged out monetarily by somebody who wants the contract and what happens. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening in this neighborhood in South Fargo. The residents recently formed a Facebook group. Everybody in the subdivision's on this Facebook group. You know why? So they can swap mail, because the mail isn't getting delivered to the right P.O. box. Now think about the time of year that we're in and what's being delivered. Senator Tester has explained that the safest way to protect your personal data and your information is the U.S. Postal Service, right? So what's being delivered to your neighbors right now? Your W-2s, right? Confidential information, 1099s, tax data and information that contains some of the most private information other than your medical information, your financial information. And when we followed up on this, and Postmaster in Fargo is busy working on this, but when we followed up on this, we asked, what's the training for somebody who gets a new contract? And they said 24 hours. 24 hours to try and figure out how to deliver the mail. And I don't mean to, say that this one incident proves the point of what's happening in rural delivery. But and I know from the portal we opened up called Fix My Mail, that this is not an isolated circumstance. It's unique because it's rural Fargo, as opposed to, the Dunn County or one of the more rural counties. So how are we going to kind of reestablish that trust and faith, Postmaster General, in rural delivery when in rural America, they just think that they've lost a whole lot of quality in the delivery of postal services.
Senator Heitkamp, we're committed to rural America, and I personally am. And in terms of training, that's an investment in our employees, and that's something that we have addressed this year.
Well, they're not really your employees, though. They're your contractors, right?
But they represent the Postal Service.
They sure do.
So we need to train, whether it's a contract employee or a career postal employee. They need to be trained. In terms of improvements in rural America, we've been working to establish hubs, entry points specifically for our county newspapers, working with the National Newspaper Association. In many rural areas, we've adjusted transportation and also added additional capacity where needed. But please know, we are committed to rural America. And as you know, we're also looking to enhance service measurement, working with the regulator so that we can have more granular data and that we can identify these, if we have pinch points or any systemic issues, that we can address it quicker and ensure that we're providing that consistent, reliable service. That's our commitment.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that your words are heartfelt. I mean, we've had these conversations, and I've been grateful for all of the meetings and the work that we did on our rural postal bill, many provisions of which have been included in this bill. But service standards are not what they were. They just are not, and they're not acceptable. Even if the old days when I was a kid, and I think I've told you this story, where I challenged my law school classmates in Portland, Oregon, to send me a letter that said Heidi in the zip code. And I got that letter. I got their letters. I mean, they took up the challenge. And I got it in 2 days. That doesn't happen anymore. And so we recognize the challenges and the financial challenges, but I don't want this just to be about spreadsheets. I want this to be about service and about, once again, reestablishing, especially in rural communities. We desperately need to have a fair balance between cost-cutting and economy measures and continuing the mandate that we believe the founders of the Constitution, the writers of the Constitution gave us, which is to have a postal system that works for the entire country. And so just want to make sure that, and we'll have follow-on questions, Megan, and I know you're heartfelt, but we just don't see it in rural America. We don't see that concern being translated to improvement.
And I would say, Senator Heitkamp, that financial stability does support those service efforts. We are committed and look forward to continue to working with you on these issues.